بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد, all we had in our possession under the sky was Fadak, but a group of people were greedy for it, and another group withheld from it. Allah, after all, is the best of arbiters. The first of our loud salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. A second even louder salawat in honor of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. A third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa zaman. Allahumma salli. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The most tragic occupation of a piece of land in the history of the religion of Islam was the occupation of the land of Fadak. Indeed, you find that this is, without a doubt, the most tragic occupied piece of land in not only the religion of Islam, but in the household of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family. Any piece of land which is occupied by a group of people who come as a form of oppression towards that community, you find that that piece of land, without a doubt, remains in the hearts of those people who have lost it. But when that piece of land belongs to the household of the man who bought the religion, then without a doubt it becomes even more tragic. Therefore, when we look at the tragedy of the occupation, for example, of a piece of land today like Palestine, and when one sees what's happening in the news in Gaza, no one can relate to this issue like the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Because we are the ones who are witnesses to the first piece of land that was occupied in this religion. There are many who rightly so are speaking for the rights of those who face oppression in Gaza, of those who have no food, of those who have nothing to drink, of those who have no shelter, of those who, for example, don't even have the right to have medicine being given to them, of those who found that their houses have been taken away, or that their houses have been bulldozed, or that their houses have been confiscated. When we see all of this, we see that rightly so, a group of people stand up in saying that you cannot come and bully a group by saying that that is your land, or that land belongs to the government, or that land belongs to your particular framework or ideology. Therefore, when a person looks at what's happening in Gaza and sees the occupation of that land, I would direct them to the first occupation, the first illegal occupation of land in the religion of Islam, and that is the Fadak of Fatimah al-Zahra, salawatullah wa salamu alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. There are many who no doubt look at the occupation in Gaza, but have never heard about Fadak. There are many you will see in demonstrations who have gone out to speak for the rights of those who are oppressed, who have gone out to speak for the rights of those who are facing difficulties. But if you were to ask them, what do you know about what happened at Fadak? You'll see that many will say to you, what's Fadak? You say to them, but don't you know what happened in 11 after Hijrah? Some will say to you, I would love to find out. Others may say to you, who cares? This happened 1,000 years ago. We should be concerned with what's happening today. It's because we neglected what happened 1,000 years ago that we never learned lessons for today. Had we examined what happened shortly after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa died, then we'll see that every occupation of every piece of land always has a number of common denominators. The first of them is that there is an ideology behind that occupation. You'll always find that whenever land is taken or land is confiscated, that there's always an ideology behind the confiscation of that land. No one confiscates a piece of land willy-nilly. At the end of the day, you must have a certain framework as to why you confiscate a piece of land. If I come and take your house, I come and take your building, I come and repossess your farm, when I come and repossess what you have, I have firstly an ideology that backs up what I'm doing. Secondly, you're a threat to me, so I need to get rid of your economic income. The human being, when they have access to money, can change the world and shake the world. But when the human being does not have access to certain support, be it donations, be it access to, for example, a bank account where they're able to withdraw some money, then that human being in no way has any power whatsoever. So what do? You make sure that you cripple them economically. Whenever you see occupation of any piece of land, number one, there's the ideology. Number two is to cripple those people by taking their piece of land. Number three is to use a religious justification for why you're occupying that land. Always, when a person occupies a piece of land and takes it from someone else, you'll see that they've used religion in many cases. They might use an ayah of the Quran even, or might use a hadith. An ayah of the Quran someone might use, or an ayah of the Bible, or an ayah of the Torah, because the Jews have the Torah and the Christians have the Bible and we have the Quran. A Jew may use a verse of the Bible as to why they should be occupying a piece of land. A Christian with the Crusaders may use a verse of the Bible as to why they should occupy a piece of land. Likewise, if a Muslim occupies your land, a Muslim takes another Muslim's land, they may use a hadith to justify their action. They may say, this hadith entitles me to confiscate this land and take your house. Or this hadith entitles me, or this ayah of the Quran, to take your land. So sometimes the common denominator is what? Number one, ideology. Number two is economy. Number three, religious justification. Number four, to get rid of your threat, they have to destroy your land or seize your land. You may be someone who is a threat to the government, and when you have a piece of land, one way to cripple you is to take that piece of land from you. Number five, when you plead to them and say to them, this is my home, this is my land, this is where I've lived all these years, they will not listen to any of your pleas, even if you are a lady 18 years old or 88 years old. Yes? Those who know where I'm going know where I'm going. You may be 18, you may be 88, you may be screaming, we have lived in this land. We have farmers on this land. We have planted harvests on this land. The government that occupies a land will ignore the pleas of a lady in her 80s or a lady in her teens. Further than that, when you begin to bring witnesses to the fact that this is your land, this is a vital point. When a person comes and says, these are my witnesses, you say, I don't want to take your witnesses. You say, but these are my witnesses, that I've lived in this road all my life, or that this land was given to me by my father, or that this land was given to me by the state, or that I bought this land at a certain time. You'll see that the government will ignore. They'll make excuses that that witness is not credible, that witness is not credible, that witness is not credible. Another common denominator that you'll always see with lands that are occupied is what? Is that you'll always see those who have taken that land begin to play with it like a football. What do I mean? Because they've taken your land, he hasn't sweated for that land. He's taken it. He's not the one who's purchased it. He's probably kicked you out because he's a powerhouse. What do they end up doing? They end up passing it from one to the other. One has the piece of land for themselves. Then they give it to someone else. Then they give it to someone else. Then they give it to someone else. Why? Because they say that that is our land now. If I decide to give you this land, it's up to me. And if I decide to keep the land away from you, it's up to me. If I want to give it to my friend who lives in another city, and I tell them it's your right to come home and take this land, or I want to give it to one of my cousins, then that's exactly what I'll do. And that's why, when you look at what happened with Fadak, you will find that all of these come together in similarity to what one may argue we can see in Gaza today. But the sadness is that many people do not know about the details of Fadak. On the one level, how many of your Muslim friends who are demonstrating for Palestine because they say that Palestine is occupied land, ask them the question, Fadak, do you know about it? Many of them will say, what's Fadak? You say, you don't know about that confiscation of land? That was a piece of land that belonged to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Many of them, number one, don't know. Number two, there are those who do know, but they don't want to reveal this issue. Why? Because there are some important figures who stand up against one another on this area. Whenever a land is occupied, you'll find two types of people. One type will be silent because they're scared of saying something. Another side will say, wait, I'm going to mention both sides. I'm going to discuss both sides. If I want to discuss the opinion of Abu Bakr on that piece of land, there is no issue. And if I want to discuss the opinion of Fatimah Zahra alayhi salam, there's no issue. At the end of the day, in the court case of the occupied land, there is sometimes the one who's making the complaint, and the one who's the plaintiff, the one who's being attacked, the one who's being supported, the one who has evidence, the one who doesn't have evidence. This is a normal case. Ultimately, who we decide is the oppressor and the oppressed may vary in the world that we live in. There are some in the media who may look at a piece of land that is taken, like the land of Fadak, and they may ask good questions. For example, of the questions they may ask is that the first Khalifa quotes a hadith that he claims that he heard from the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family. And what is that? نَحْنُ مَعَاشِرَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ لَا نُوَرِث. That we, the prophets of Allah, do not leave behind inheritance. So that person says to us, how could you say Fadak is the inheritance of Fatimah Zahra alayhi salam, when there is a hadith that says we, the prophets, do not leave behind inheritance? That person also may ask that in Al-Kafi there is a hadith where we talk about how the ulama are the inheritors of the prophets of Allah, and that the prophets do not leave behind the dirham or the dinar, but rather they leave behind knowledge. Therefore, how do you say Rasulullah left Fadak for Fatimah when the Prophet says we do not leave money, we leave our knowledge as inheritance? Number two, there are others who ask, if Fadak was taken and occupied by the first Khalifa, why did Imam Ali alayhi salam not take it back? Many ask this question, and it's a valid question. We know Abu Bakr was the first Khalifa. Imam Ali alayhi salam was the fourth Khalifa. Therefore, Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he became Khalifa, why doesn't he take Fadak back? Easily he could say that this land was occupied by the first Khalifa, and then Umar decides he's going to keep what belongs of the sadaqah of Khaybar and Fadak, but he will give some of Medina's sadaqah to Ali and Abbas. Umar ibn al-Khattab says, I will not give Fadak back. And so this continues with Uthman until it comes to Imam Ali. Imam Ali alayhi salam, we do not see him saying, now Fadak is back with me. I ask Mawla a question. that if an occupied land was a source of dhulm in your eyes, that a person cannot just come and confiscate my land and say, hey, religiously this is mine, why, Mawla, did you not take Fadak back for Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam? It's a valid question. Because whether you're discussing Palestine today or you're going back to Fadak in history, the reality is the same questions are asked by people. What is the justification of one side? What's the response on the other? One side is saying this is our ground. Another says it's our ground. Another says this verse. Another says this hadith. The reality is we must be able to be equipped with those answers. At the end of the day, as I said yesterday, the Sunni reading we have to respect does not mean we have to accept. I can respect a reading, but I don't have to accept a reading. But what is my Shia reading of the occupied land of Fadak? Do I know about the first land that was occupied in Islam? Do I know about the oppression on that piece of land? Let us tonight examine the greatest tragedy of occupation in the history of the religion of Islam. And that was the occupation of the land of Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. And I'd like to do that in the following stages. Number one, how did the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, acquire the land of Fadak? Number two, was this land profitable, and what was the profit that it was making? Number three, was Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam a lady of wealth or a lady that was poor? Number four, does that highlight to us that we can be Muslims who are wealthy, or is it a clash with the dunya? Number five, was Fadak a gift to Fatima or inheritance? Number six, what happened with that land and what was the argument of the first Khalifa? Number seven, what was the reply of Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam on his arguments? Number eight, why is there a hadith saying in Al-Kafi and Sahih that the prophets do not leave behind money? Therefore, how could Fadak be for Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam? How do we answer that about what's in our books? Further than that, when Imam Ali became Khalifa, why didn't he just take Fadak back? In the same way some today in Palestine want their land back, why does Mawla seemingly have no interest in taking his land back? And then further than that, what do we find as number nine? The lessons that Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam teaches us in the way that she spoke out against the oppressor who she felt had taken her land. Which words does she use? And how do Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam discuss all of this many years later? And how can we apply those principles in our life today? Let's examine this topic and dissect it in complete depth. The land of Fadak, without a doubt, remains one of the most important lands. In which sense? The land is about 150 kilometers from Medina. If you go for Umrah or you go for Hajj, inevitably, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Medina and Mecca. When you go to Medina, there are certain places of ziyarah within Medina. So for example, Jannatul Baqi' within Medina. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi's grave within Medina. Where Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam is buried? Within Medina. A'immat al-Baqi'. A bit then you go out, you might go for example to the grave of Hamza bin Abd al-Muttalib and Shuhada Uhud. 150 kilometers away from Medina was a piece of land called Fadak. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam achieved victory at Khaybar, he achieved victory in what was known as a military expedition. You all know the story of Khaybar, I don't need to repeat. Mawla's performance on that day was the greatest that one would see on the battlefield. But that involved what? That involved swords, camels, horses, fighting. Therefore, from Khaybar, there may be certain booty, which may be known as khums, and that may be distributed. There is a battle that's taken place. In Islamic law, if a battle takes place, that may be distributed, whatever of the booty of war, in khums. If no battle takes place, then the distribution is with what? Is with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He can distribute how he likes, and sometimes the people may give him a gift and he could give the gift as he likes. The Jews were at Khaybar. Next door to them were the Jews of Fadak. And there were also the Jews of Qurayza. And there were also the Jews of Nadir. And there were also the Jews of Qaynuqa'. The Jews, by the way, were all living in Medina. Why? Today, many of them in the news, I hear them saying that our promised land is Jerusalem. And they will talk about, for example, Hebron and the West Bank. And we're all discussing this in the news. The Jewish promised land, according to us, in the Torah was Medina. Medina is the promised land. Someone says, no, said Ammar. For the Jews, the promised land will be Jerusalem. If anyone, the promised land, Jerusalem is the Christians more than the Jews. The Christians' promised land, where there will be a mass conversion and an Armageddon, eventually Christ's second coming with the Imam of our time, that promised land, Jerusalem. Someone says, what do you mean Medina? I ask you, why was there a huge Jewish community in Medina? Why? Why would the Jews all move to Medina? If the promised land for them where the Messiah will come is towards Jerusalem. Because in the Torah, according to Surah Al-Baqarah, nobody knows Jewish history like the religion of Islam and the Quran. The Quran will explain to you Jewish history better than any academic on this earth. The Quran mentions they were all living in Medina. Why were they living in Medina? In their Torah it was written, the name of the prophet that is going to come at the end of time as their Messiah. How many times have you read Al-Nabi, Al-Ummi, who they find written in the Torah and the Injil? You've read that ayah in the Quran? Where do they find him? يجدونه في where? في التوراة والإنجيل. In the Torah and in the Injil. In the Torah and in the Bible, you will see the prophet's name. Now today someone says, I picked up the Bible, I can't find his name. We believe that there was a tampering of the text. However, Rasulullah's name, because it wasn't there, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they all were in Medina waiting. When the prophet came, they're like, nah. Well, he's the prophet. Doesn't he have all the features? Yeah, he does, but it's another Muhammad who will come later. They rejected the prophet. Peace be upon him. That's why the Quran came down harsh on their rabbis that do not play with Allah's words. You know what the truth is. Do not play with God's words. The Jews, therefore, were living Khaybar. Next door were the Jews of Fadak. Jews of Fadak, when they saw Ali ibn Abi Talib in full force, they were like, we're not going to enter a war. You know that boxer you don't want to get in the ring with? When they saw Amir al-Mu'mineen, who makes the boxers come nowhere near the dust under his feet, when they saw the army of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, the Jews of Fadak, they put their hand up. What did they say? They said that we will not fight you, O Muhammad. And we will give you from our land. They gave him from the land a piece of land that had a major flow of water from it. And any of you who have been to Arabia will know that it's not everywhere that you get water that is so easy with these oases and rivers and lakes. No, a lot of that is barren desert. Fadak, you had an oasis stream flowing everywhere. Number two, you had these palm trees everywhere. Number three, it was producing about 25,000 dinars a year. If I told you today, there's prime land in your city, and there is a piece of land that produces revenue of the highest, then that is Fadak at that time. Fadak, therefore, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the Shi'i reading of the occupied land of Fadak, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Quran revealed the verse to him. Surah 17, verse 46. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa'ati dhal qurba haqqa. Give your near ones their haqq. What is their due? Jibreel tells the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, this land of Fadak that's been given to you, give it to Fatimah al-Zahra alayha salam. Why? Because of the amount her mother Khadija gave to the religion of Islam. No one gave to Islam like Khadija and Abu Talib alayhim as-salam. No one. Nobody. This religion was started on the pillars that were Abu Talib, his son Ali, and Khadija. These were the pillars of the religion of Islam. So what happened? Allahumma salli. So what happened therefore is that the heavens dictated that Rasulullah gives Fadak to who? Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. In her lifetime, and what else? He gave her Fadak and the Awali 2 pieces of land, not one. Many times the more famous one, which we hear, is Fadak. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was ordered to give Fadak and the Awali. These were 2 pieces of land given to Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. Straight away, that became Fatimah's freehold property. Would you agree, those in the world of property, there's a difference between a leasehold property and a freehold? Do you agree or no? A leasehold is when I say to you that there is a number of years that you could have it. You could keep extending the lease, for example. But a freehold is yours. You decide when to buy, when to sell, as you would like. Fatimah al-Zahra, when Fadak was given to her, was her freehold property. She straight away, 4 years before Rasulullah died, straight away, her and Imam Ali alayhim as-salam, they got workers to go into that property and begin digging, begin planting, begin harvesting. Now, in British law, Islamic law, any law, we have a principle called qa'idat al-yad. Possession indicates ownership. Do you agree? If I'm in my house, possession indicates ownership. Therefore, when Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam steps foot in that area, automatically what does it become? It becomes her possession. You agree or no? Fatimah al-Zahra, therefore that land becomes her possession and a great source of revenue for her. The beautiful lesson, number 1, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gives the property to his children before he dies, not allows a punch up after he dies. How many do you see in our communities? Brothers fight each other about the money of the father. Rasulullah said, don't leave it for that will. Give it to them before you die. You take this house, you take that pen, you take that car, you take that building. Otherwise, after they die, there's going to be a major punch-up. And that's why the Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That it's been prescribed upon you, that before death comes upon you, what should you do? You make sure that you write a will, or you write clearly who your property goes to. Therefore, many times in our Muslim communities, what do? Baba, give me my property from now. No, when I die, I will write in my will. The biggest problem sometimes is people think if you write it all in your will, that you get this house, you get this. No. The will doesn't work. Sharia works. 2/3 of the whole amount is distributed. The value of 2/3 is distributed to the children. 1/3 is what the parent, for example, wanted endowed for a certain thing. Someone says, no, but I wrote in my will that I want the house to go to him and I want the car to go to him. No. Will won't work because it has to go through Sharia first. Hence why you see the fights in our families. It's my house. No, it's my house. No, Baba said it's mine. No, Mama said. And then at the end, they don't talk to each other for 15 years, 20 years. When really Rasulullah gave Fadak, and therefore Fatimah al-Zahra became wealthy. Someone says Fatimah al-Zahra is not wealthy. Fatimah al-Zahra is poor. Why? Why is she poor? So no, I want Fatima to be poor. And to who are you to want Fatima to be poor? Number 1. And number 2, Islamic history shows Fatima is rich. Fatima al-Zahra owns 7 plantations in Medina. You think a father like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, with his generosity, would not make sure that his daughter would be looked after? You would look after your daughter. And the man who is the height of generosity wouldn't look after his daughter? 7 plantations Fatimah al-Zahra owned in Medina. In other words, the daughter of the greatest businesswoman became a great one herself. True? The mother, everyone says, MashaAllah, Sayyidah Khadija, businesswoman. And what? Fatimah al-Zahra doesn't graduate from her mom's university? Fatimah al-Zahra was rich. Someone says, but we can't be rich. You can be rich in Islam. Otherwise, poor Nabi Dawood and Nabi Sulaiman have a long qiyamah. Someone said, but if you're rich, then you are very much attached to the dunya. No. What Fatima taught is I own things, but they don't own me. I own, but they don't own me. Fatima Zahra, one of the things that Imam Ali got from the booty of war was a necklace one day. She gave that necklace away towards someone, freed a slave and allowed that slave to live their life. On her wedding night, she'll give away whatever she can. Fatimah al-Zahra was not affected by the wealth. The danger is if your wealth becomes your identity. My friends have to be of a particular class. I cannot hang around with people who are of a lower... No, that's a problem. But if your wealth is a wasila to serve Allah, then may Allah increase your wealth. Us as Muslims, if we keep telling each other you shouldn't be wealthy, how are we going to be powerful in this world? How? How? By all living on benefits? By all living on welfare? By all scamming governments? No, a Muslim, when we see one of them is successful, we should be pushing them and promoting success. Fatimah al-Zahra, 7 pieces of land. Fatimah al-Zahra, Fadak, Al-Awali, other plantations, all of these she owned. Money was flowing until when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa died, straight away the first Khalifa came. Within moments of the death of Rasulullah, go to the lands of Fatimah, confiscate them. People tell me Gaza, I say, wait, let's rewind. Let's rewind. 1400 years ago, why are we going to Gaza now? Wait. First Khalifa had an opinion which was his ijtihad. His ijtihad was that he said, take Fadak back, now this belongs to the government. Wait, why does it belong to the government? It's in the hands of somebody. There's people who are working there, there's people who are living there. He says, no, the Prophet said that نحن معاشر الأنبياء لا نورث. We, the prophets of Allah, we don't leave behind inheritance. Confiscate the lands. Yes, but wait, the people whose land this is are not any people. The people whose land this is are the house of revelation, the house of wahi. These are people who know Allah's law, and certainly I would think that Fatimah al-Zahra would know her father's hadiths better than most. Would you agree? I don't mind if someone says that amongst the companions there were learned people. There were, no doubt. But none of the companions' ilm comes near Ali ibn Abi Talib's ilm. True? Even if you look at the likes of the first and second Khalifa, there are many times, Umar ibn al-Khattab himself did not know on one occasion about the laws of tayammum in the Quran until he was corrected by Ammar bin Yasir and it angered him. The first Khalifa would ask questions even concerning certain fiqhi issues that he would not be aware. Even the Sunni world does not say that the first and the second Khalifa are renowned for their ilm. Rather, they are renowned for their status as elders or related to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, he said, confiscate that land. But someone is already living there. The worst feeling is when you own a land and settlers come and say, get out, this is my right from my religion. Isn't that true? What are you seeing in the world today? People who come all the way from countries far and wide, and they come to people living in a house, and they're like, get out, get out. What do you mean get out? I've been living in this house for 45 years. I've been living in this house for a long time. Get out. This house belongs to me. So he came, confiscated the property. When he confiscated the property, why did this confiscation happen? He quoted this hadith. When he quoted, Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam straight away had an ammunition of replies back to him. Why? Because when a person kicks you out of your house or your land, the Quran allows you to be unhappy. The Quran gives certain entitlement to people if they are kicked out of their homes. أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ الَّذِينَ أُخْرِجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ إِلَّا أَن يَقُولُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ. Permission has been given to the believers for them to fight. Why? Because they've been oppressed. They've been kicked out of their houses for no reason. Fadak was a land for Fatimah. He came and gave a hadith. Now, I ask you all a question. Which is more powerful in reality, a hadith or the Quran? Quran, if I have a hadith, and I want to check if the hadith is legitimate, one of the methods some ulama say is that you put it against the Quran. When you come and say that we, the prophets, Rasulullah said that we, the prophets, do not leave behind inheritance, then you have to put that alongside the Quran. Were there any prophets in the Quran who left behind inheritance? Fatimah al-Zahra taught us a major lesson. When someone occupies your land, don't sit there and think that by sitting quietly it's going to make a difference. It won't make a difference. Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, others all made clear that unless you speak out in a very difficult moment, then that will never come back to you at all. She came, she gave 2 sermons. One in the presence of the first Khalifa, the other in the presence of the ladies of the Muhajirun and the Ansar. In her sermons, what did she say? She said, you say that my father said we the prophets don't leave behind inheritance? Then I'm going to quote for you the Quran, which shows that prophets left behind inheritance. There's a side point here, by the way. Someone says, but Fatimah al-Zahra, Fadak was a gift. So why is she saying inheritance? Because in his opinion, he didn't take it as a gift. He took it as your fathers left it. Whereas in our opinion, it was already a gift that was given in the lifetime. So it doesn't fall under inheritance. But if you say it's inheritance, Fatimah al-Zahra turned around. She said, okay, you say that prophets don't leave behind inheritance. Let's look in the Quran. Number 1, Nabi Sulaiman and Nabi Dawood. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانُ دَاوُودَ. Nabi Sulaiman inherited Nabi Dawood. The Sunni reading of this, remember what we said last night, there are or even more readings, and if we accept that Islam may have multiple readings in fiqh, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, then they should also accept that Islam can have a plethora of opinion on history as well. My Sunni brother and sister, they say, and they have every right to say, that the first Khalifa, his ijtihad, A, was why he did this, B, because they may value his ilm above Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. But me as a Shi'i, I differ with this reading. I say what Fatimah says. Number 1, Sulaiman alayhi salam inherited Dawood. But hey, you said prophets don't leave behind inheritance. So how did Sulaiman inherit Dawood? What is the Sunni reply? Sunni reply is, Nabi Sulaiman inherited the ilm of Nabi Dawood. And therefore, it is not the wealth of Nabi Dawood. I ask you all a question. Can anyone really inherit their father's ilm? Otherwise, poor Nabi Nuh's son would be like, bro, if prophets' sons can inherit their ilm, I clearly, missed out on that particular offer that day in the sale. What happened? I have a prophet who's my father. Nabi Yaqub's sons. How many of them, mashallah? Because there's an argument that's always given that Nabi Sulaiman was one of many brothers. So if it was wealth, then why is there only talk about him? No, Nabi Yaqub, his sons, how many? I ask you, if you inherit ilm, where is the inheritance of ilm? How does inheritance of ilm actually happen? Unless, of course, you want to be hardcore Shia, which I don't think the people who are giving this argument want to be. But if you want to be hardcore Shia, an imam touches the heart of an imam, ilm is transferred. But that is hardcore Shi'ism, which we don't want to touch really. Now, even the saliva of an imam on another imam is an passing of ilm. But you don't believe in that. So I ask you, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, you're telling me Sulaiman inherited Dawood. It can't be knowledge. So what is it? It is wealth. Sulaiman inherited the wealth of Dawood alayhi salam. Number 2, with the story of who? Yahya and Zakaria. How many of you have read the Quran? The story of John the Baptist and his father, Zakaria. When Zakaria said, Yarithuni wa yarithu min ali Yaqub, Ya Allah, give me an inheritor who inherits from me and from the family of Yaqub, and make him someone you are pleased with. You don't need to say that. If it's a prophet you're looking for to inherit your ilm, Allah will be pleased with him automatically. What it is someone who will inherit the wealth of what I have left behind. So number 1, Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam does something beautiful. She says, first Khalifa, you have your reading, I have my reading. Your reading is you've used the hadith. I've used Quran, you haven't used Quran. The house of Quran can only produce the likes of Fatima, true? Fatima Zahra, number one, Sulaiman inherits from Dawood. Number two, Yahya inherits from Zakaria. But number three, there's a killer line that she gives. What's the killer line? Jahiliyyah, woman could not inherit, true? When Islam came, it said woman can inherit. Fatima al-Zahra says in the Quran, Surah 2, verse 180, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَوْتِ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةَ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam turned around and she said, this ayah says, if any of you death is gonna come, so make sure you write in your wasiyah about what you leave behind. This applies to all people except my father. So the Quran tells my dad to tell everyone to do something, but he shouldn't do it? Or is it that women do not inherit and you have taken us back to the days of Jahiliyyah? Vital point. Why? When I am from the Shia of Ali, it is because I believe that the Imam I follow, Jahiliyyah and its najasa will never touch him. Never. You may follow another school which may make decisions on ijtihad, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. I follow people who don't make decisions which can be wrong. They make decisions which Allah is always pleased with. Therefore, Fatima al-Zahra says, wait, forget Sulaiman and Dawood, forget Yahya and Zakaria. Normal females inherit from their fathers. Have you decided to take us back 25 years? Because 25 years ago in Medina, we couldn't inherit as women. My dad came, changed it. You've now taken us back. Simple. Normal legislation dictates a woman and a man all inherit. Do you agree or no? Why can I not inherit? You said my father doesn't. Why is there a law for my father and a law for everybody else on this issue? My father, you're saying. Now someone raised the question. In Al-Kafi, there is a hadith that the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. And the prophets do not leave behind a dirham or dinar, but the prophets leave behind knowledge. I agree with this hadith. True. Someone says, that means Fadak doesn't belong to Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. I reply by saying this gives me an understanding that the mission of the prophets wasn't to collect dirhams and dinar and leave them behind, but was to leave behind ilm for their ummah. You see the difference? Prophet, if he says, I don't leave behind dinar and dirham, I leave behind ilm, doesn't mean Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa saying, I cannot leave behind inheritance. It means he's saying that when we came, our role wasn't to leave bags of money for mankind. Our role was to leave bags of wisdom for mankind. Therefore, when someone brings you this argument from Al-Kafi, then another argument which is brought. Which argument? When Abu Bakr died, he did not give Fadak, the land of Fadak, to Fatima al-Zahra. Why? Number one, his ideology. What did I say at the beginning? Anyone who occupies land in the world has certain principles. Number one, ideology. Number two, religious justification. Number three, using their influence. Number four, occupying the land of someone who's a threat. Number five, ignoring the pleas of the person who's saying this is my land. Number six, what do? When the person says this is my land and they bring witnesses, what do the people who occupy land say? We don't care which witnesses. We will bulldoze and build new settlements. True? Fatima al-Zahra said, I have witnesses even though I don't need witnesses. Listen to the line. I have witnesses even though I don't need witnesses. Why? If I own a house, you come and say it's your house. I'm living in this house. You come and say it's your house. Who needs to bring witnesses? Me or you? You. Why? Possession indicates ownership. قاعدة اليد. I'm living in the house. You come and say that I'm a squatter. previous quarter. You got to bring witnesses that this is your property. I'm staying here for now. You bring a document, you bring witnesses. So Fatimah al-Zahra said, okay, I don't need to bring witnesses, but I will. My husband, Imam Ali alayhi salam, my Imam, Imam Ali alayhi salam, my Imam. Imam Ali is the Imam of Fatimah. My Imam. They said, no, he's your husband. We don't take his word. We don't take his word. It's that, I tell you, if I wasn't giving majalis and I wasn't a lecturer, and I just, from outside the box, I'll be like, you know what, you Muslims confuse me. 1 minute, all the companions' words are a hujjah. The next minute, one of them says something, no, we don't take your witnessing. The next minute, they're having a punch-up with camels flying everywhere. I don't understand. Anyway, Imam Ali is my witness? No, husband. Okay. Hassan and Hussein, what's the reply? Kids. I always say, Sunni and Shia both love Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein. But in the Sunni world, Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein have never grown up. They were kids. If you ask any Sunni, what do you think Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein, say, oh, we have to love them, they're the grandkids. They never grew up. Hence, they can never relate to them like we do. Don't get me wrong. They'll cry at Karbala. But always in their mind, it's the kid Hassan and the kid Hussein. Because the elder Hassan and the elder Hussein begin to have problems with idols of Quraysh. Anyway, Hassan and Hussein, are they witnesses? No, kids. Kids. Allah didn't think they were kids at Mubahala, did He? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not think Hassan and Hussein were kids when the Quran said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ فِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ فَقُلْ تَعَالَوْا نَدْعُ أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ فَنَجْعَلْ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَاذِبِينَ. Allah said to the Prophet, tell the Christians, we'll bring our sons, you bring your sons. How old were Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein? 2 years before Fadak happened. One of them was how old? One of them was 6, the other was 5. I ask you a question, therefore. If Allah did not think that they were children, who are you to say they are children? I'll bring Ayman. Ayman was a servant in the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah said, Jannah awaits her. Nope. I'll bring Fidda. Nope. What happens when someone occupies your land? Even if you plea, they don't listen. When you get the world's media to plea as witnesses of oppression, they still don't listen. True? People, when you look at today, go back at Fadak, you'll see all of it. All of it happened. So after all of this, Abu Bakr took Fadak, the government confiscated the land of Fatimah. According even to some traditions, you know all that was left from Rasulullah for Fatimah al-Zahra? Because remember one thing, we as Shia, in our reading, we believe that they entered the house of Fatimah, true? If you enter someone's house, what are you going to do? Just look around, have a quick look and go home? You're going to take, if it belongs to him, take this, this is now government property. When you occupy a land, you go in the land, you begin to confiscate everything because it belongs to the government. I have a warrant from the government that you people cannot live here anymore. It is now for new settlers to come and live here. I have a warrant. Fatimah al-Zahra, all that she had left from her father was what? Some say her father had an animal by the name of Duldul, something he used to use for when he would go on journeys, and he had some sandals, and that was all that left. They took everything else. Everything was taken. When everything therefore was taken, Fatimah al-Zahra, Abu Bakr kept whatever was from Fadak. And you know, why are you doing this? The best way to attack your enemy who are not giving you bay'ah, they're not pledging, they're not making a peace deal, they're not giving in to the solutions that you offer, is by confiscating their property, like they did with the Sha'b of Abu Talib alayhi salam. So number one, the first Khalif. Second, Fatimah al-Zahra became angry with him. What does Bukhari narrate? فَغَضِبَتْ فَاطِمَةُ بِنْتُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ فَهَجَرَتْ أَبَا بَكْرٍ. Bukhari's words are phenomenal. Fatima became angry with the first Khalifa and did not want him to come near her again. I don't want you to come near me. I cannot make peace with someone who has an ideology that finds it normal to take my land in broad daylight without anyone questioning. Okay? Second Khalifa came in, land of Fadak, 24,000 dinara flying into the government treasury. He comes in, hadith is there again. Go and look online, type Bukhari or Muslim, Fadak. Just put the word Fadak, just read all the hadiths. He comes in, he's like, you know, of all the sadaqahs left behind for Ali and Fatima, or for Ali in particular, because Fatima Zahra died, some of the sadaqah of Medina you guys can keep, but Khaybar and Fadak remains with me now. No one's touching them. Okay. Third Khalifa coming, same. Imam Ali alayhi salam came in. Imam Ali alayhi salam, this is the big question. When Imam came in, imagine now, you have this land, occupied land in the Middle East. You guys have been fighting for it for all this time. And then all of a sudden, when you have the chance to have it, you're like, nah, actually, I don't want it anymore. Imam Ali, when he came in, there's a question. Mawla, why didn't you take Fadak back? This question was asked to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam twice. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was asked twice. Why did Mawla not take back the occupied land of Fatima? First answer that Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam gave was what? Imam said, he did what his Prophet did. He did what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa did. Said, what do you mean? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa when he returned to Mecca, you know, when he opened Mecca and he returned after many years, he had his house that was there in Mecca, that Aqil had taken charge of, and now had gone. Rasulullah, when he came back, people came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, do you want your house back? He said, we the Ahlul Bayt do not take that which was wrongfully taken from us back. We, the Ahlul Bayt, do not take back that which has been wrongfully taken from us. Why? What's the logic? Imam al-Sadiq is asked again. Why didn't Imam Ali take it back? Listen to his answer. He quotes from Imam Ali alayhi salam that Imam Ali said, the mazluma and the zalim have gone. The mazluma will be rewarded, and the zalim will be punished. I take it back, then one may argue that the punishment will not happen because I've taken it. I want to leave it like that till the day of judgment. Killer line. What a killer line. You see, in life, sometimes you don't get everything you want, true? If you do get it while you're alive, sometimes you want it so bad. Sometimes no. Our haqq will come on Qiyamah. Imam, had he taken it, people would have forgotten it as a non-issue. Do you know how long that issue of Fadak remained? Do you know how long? You know, people always tell me that the Palestine issue, when we discuss it, it's over 100 years. True? The Balfour Declaration and what happened with Zionism and what happened with Herzl. From Rasulullah's death, sallallahu alayhi wa until Al-Ma'mun and Imam Al-Rida, alayhi salam, is how many years? Imam Al-Rida alayhi salam died when? Imam Al-Rida alayhi salam died approximately around 190 after Hijrah, if not 195 after Hijrah. In other words, Fadak of Fatimah, 180 years, that land was being passed like a football from one person to another. People say to me that when we discuss events that happened to Ahlul Bayt 1,400 years ago, people are like, why we go all the way back then? If you studied then, you'd know how to deal with now. 170 years. or the Bani Umayyah, you know what they did when they came into power with Fadak? Bani Umayyah, are they going to give it to Fatima Zahra's children or no? The Umayyads, what are they going to do with it? Marwan began to tell his boys, listen, you come here, you can have a piece of it, you have a piece of it, you want to make profit from it, go and build more palm trees, build an extension. But subhanallah, when a land is occupied, sometimes it's someone who's not from your sect or your religion that may be your biggest supporter, true? Today in the world, there are some who are not Muslims, but they speak for haqq. They speak when they see innocent children dying. What do you find? Umar bin Abdul Aziz, as much as we have no reverence for him, he's an Umayyad Khalifa, but Umar bin Abdul Aziz at least returned Fadak to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Why? Because Umar bin Abdul Aziz said, this is not right. Fatima was having this land. How could someone come and just take it and say this is ours? That is not the way Islam was. Imagine Umar bin Abdul Aziz, Bani Umayyah Khalifa, gave Fadak back to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Then later on, Abbasids came, this one gave to his mate, this one gave to his mate, this one gave, until Mahdi al-Abbasi asked Imam al-Kadhim a simple question. Mahdi al-Abbasi said, you guys won the land of Fadak. What is Fatima's haqq? We'll give it back to you. What do you want exactly? Just tell me. You know what Imam al-Kadhim said to him? Imam began to quote geographically the extent of the empire of the Abbasids, how big it is. So imagine you own everything from here until Europe, and you ask me, what do you want exactly? I'm like, I want everything from here till Europe. You're like, yeah, but I own all of that. And so Imam looks at me and says, all of that and more belong to Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, it's not that piece of land that's important. Rather, what's important is that the world sees the difference between haqq and batil. Hence, even when she spoke against them, what did she say? Look at the confidence of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. She said, Allah will be the judge, and Rasulullah will be my supporter, and I cannot wait for Qiyamah. I ask you, when a lady like Fatima says that to someone, what is it saying? What's it saying? That Allah will be the judge, Rasulullah will be my supporter. And if Rasulullah is your supporter on Qiyamah, you've got victory all day. What if he's not your supporter? What happens to you? Therefore, Imam Ali alayhi salam purposely did not take back Fadak, and there was a third reason. What's the third reason? The third reason that exists as to why Imam Ali alayhi salam did not take back Fadak was, even if Imam took Fadak and said Fadak's ours, you think the people living in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam respected Imam Ali's opinion on an issue for them to all suddenly say yes? These were the same people when Imam Ali says, a salah which is not wajib cannot be prayed in jama'at, tarawih. Tarawih is a salah that's not wajib, cannot pray as in jama'ah. When Mawla became Khalifa, listen, he's Khalifa. So people say he should have just taken Fadak back. He's like, you cannot do it. They're like, wa sunnata Umara, we stick to Umar's sunnah. So I tell you, if Imam took Fadak back, you don't think there's a group of people who shout out, we stick to the sunnah established by the first Khalifa? Mawla at Safin, don't do an arbitration. No, we will do an arbitration. Mawla in the Shura, I will not follow the sunnah of number 1 and number 2 in the Shura of Uthman. No, we will follow the sunnah. Do not think that just because Imam Ali would have said, yes, Fadak is now mine, people would have accepted, people would have revolted, because there was an animosity that had existed from that time. Sometimes there are animosities on certain lands that remain forever. What lessons do we gain from Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam? The first lesson, whenever any land is taken oppressively, your heart should at least bleed for that land. At the very least, your heart should be sad. That if I see a house here in Yorkshire, I see a house, someone has come and taken it, unjustly, not justly, unjustly, whether they are Muslim or they're not Muslim, my heart should at least break. That I should be sad for that family. That family who have lived in this house all this time. Wallah, sometimes you even have repossessions from the bank. People become bankrupt. It happens. Sometimes, rightfully, it happens. But your heart breaks for someone who has to suddenly leave their house. All of a sudden from where they're living. So at least on one level, when a piece of land is taken forcefully, your heart should at least be sad. Because sometimes people say, you should do, you should speak, you should rise, you should shout. If a Muslim's heart is sad at the beginning, that's a good place to start. After that, try and be vocal. Don't watch the injustice and not say. At least tell a friend, show a friend that there is an injustice that has taken place here. That's the first lesson. What's the second lesson that you learn from Fatimah Zahra and Fadak? Is that if a government could establish that it is easy for us to do this to the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayh, then it sets a precedent that what stops you from doing it to Muhammad's granddaughters as well. Yes? At the end of the day, if I, as a Khalifa, say, who's Fatima? So what if she's Muhammad's daughter? Then Khalifas who come after me can also say, who cares if they're Muhammad's grandchildren as well? Yes? What's the difference between Ghadir and Saqifa? What's the difference? Ghadir, we would have had someone who was chosen by Allah in our opinion. Saqifa, the problem is one thing. What is it? Apart from others, just one I'd like to mention. Anyone could become leader depending on their mates and their votes. You know what the problem with that is? Each one of those leaders may be good, bad, or evil. It could happen that one could come in who's all right, who's done well for the Muslims, one who's done semi-all right, but it could also happen that one comes in who has no morals whatsoever. And that's why later Muawiyah and Yazid, in their justifications for fighting Ahlul Bayt, say, if the first Khalifa could confiscate the land of Muhammad's children, what stops us from doing what we do to Muhammad's grandchildren? At the end of the day, it's a precedent. And what's the excuse that you could use for it? Ijtihad. Ijtihad. I have deduced a conclusion on this issue. That fighting Ali, but Baba Ali is the Khalifa. Ali is the Khalifa, so what? The daughter of the first Khalifa fought Ali. Why can I not fight him at Siffin? Hassan, how could you do that to Hassan? So what? At the end of the day, if he could confiscate Hassan's mother's land, why can I not do a fight with Hassan? And that's why the culmination that broke all our hearts was Karbala and what happened after Karbala. Yes? That's the culmination. People say, how did Karbala happen? When Saqifa happened, Karbala could happen. When Fadak happened, Karbala could happen. And when houses are burnt and children are killed, then no doubt one day someone else could use that precedent and could turn around to you and say, it happened 50 years ago, why can I not do it today? And that's why when a person looks at what took place on the plains of Karbala, how could someone do that to the body of Hussein? Someone will turn around to you and say to you, they done it to the body of Hussein's mother in a way as well. Yes. When you look at what they did to Abu Abdullah and the children of Abu Abdullah, and when you see what they did at the same time to who? What they did at the same time towards the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Karbala, Kufa, Sham. Wallah, it wasn't something simple. But what's the justification? Why are you angry? 50 years ago, someone else took their land. Why can I not take their properties? Why can I not take their leadership? Why can I not come in their way if they come in my way? If his mother did not give the first Khalifa bay'ah and his father, and eventually his mother died quickly, then I will get rid of him if he doesn't give me bay'ah in Sham as well. And that's why, wallah, when you look at what happened to Al Muhammad salawatullah wa salamu alayhim, no doubt you see the remnants of Medina, but we only thought it would happen in Medina. Yes? We only thought that this would take place in Medina. Someone says, what do you mean? We only thought when we saw Medina, we only thought on the one hand that we would only see fire outside the house of Fatima. We thought that that was it. Never again would people bring fire near Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam ever again. Come to Sham Ghariban on the night of the 11th of Muharram and come and see the tents of Al Muhammad on fire and the daughters of Rasulullah running from one tent to the other. Yes. One daughter calling out, Wa Husayna, and another calling out, Wa Abbas. We thought only in Medina we'd see fire outside the door, and in Karbala we saw fires everywhere, yes? We thought only in Medina we would see a rib that is broken. At the end of the day in Medina, what did we see? Behind the wall and the door, the daughter of Rasulullah, with a nail piercing her rib. We thought only in Medina that would be the last of the family members that would ever have their rib broken. Come to Karbala, when Umar bin Sa'ad. Come to Karbala, when Umar bin Sa'ad turned around to his horse riders. When he turned around to them one by one, and he said, trample on the body of Abu Abdullah, don't leave a part of his body alone. I call out, oh Fatima, if they took one of your ribs in Karbala, come and see Hussein's ribs on the plains of Karbala. We thought only in Medina would there be a slap that would keep her cheek red. Allahu Akbar. That slap on the cheek, which Da'bal bin Ali al-Khuza'i mentions to Imam al-Rada in his Musibah and his poem, when he would say, أَفَاطِمُ لَوْ خِلْتِ الْحُسَيْنِ مُجَدَّلًا وَقَدْ مَاتَ عَطْشَانًا بِشَطِّ فُرَاتٍ إِذَا لَلَطَمْتِ الْخَدْ. Yes, we only thought that there would be a slap only in Medina. Never again, surely, would they slap the daughters of Rasulullah. Come to Karbala and see the daughters. See the earrings of the daughters being pulled off, and see the redness of the cheeks of Sukayna bint al-Husayn. We thought, many of us thought that that would be the end, yes, but there's one more that I'm going to tell you. May Allah give sabr to every mother when I say this line. We thought in Medina that was the last baby we would see dead, yes? All of you know where I'm heading now. In Medina, that baby Muhsin was in the womb of Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. But Fatimah miscarried that baby, yes? That baby on the day of judgment will be calling out with that ayah of the Quran, yes? وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. The baby will ask on the day of judgment, why was I killed? What had I done wrong? In Medina, we thought that would be the last of the babies of Al-Muhammad that would be killed in this way. Come all of you to Karbala. Come all of you to Rabab, the wife of Imam al-Hussein. When she saw her 6-month-old in the arms of Abu Abdullah, and she saw the blood flowing from the neck of the baby, and she saw Imam al-Hussein heartbroken with that sight. That Rabab, by the way, when she saw her baby killed, that Rabab remained silent. I wonder about the silence of Fatima behind the door when she knew that her baby was no more. Rabab, after the baby was killed, on the night of the 11th of Muharram, Sayyidah Zainab was in the tents with the rest of the ladies. Some ladies had been kicked, some had been hit, some had their dresses burnt. Zainab looked around, where's Rabab? I can't see Rabab. Where is she? Then she saw Rabab walking in the middle of Karbala. She came to her, she said, Rabab, what are you doing here? Where are you heading? She said, I wanted to quench the thirst of my baby boy. I wanted to find my baby boy. She was crying for that baby. When she went to Kufa, she would keep crying for that baby. When she went to Sham, she would cry for that baby. When she returned to Karbala, she would cry for that baby. But she cried for that baby all the time, but there was always one love she had more than that baby, yes? When she returned to Medina, she asked the builders, remove the roof from my house. They said to her, but Rabab, the sun will burn you. This is the sun of Medina. She said, no, remove the roof. They removed the roof. They said to her, Rabab, how could you live here? The sun will burn your body. What did she reply? How can I protect my my body from the burning sun, and I saw Abu Abdillah's body burnt by it in Karbala. How can I protect myself from the heat? And the son of Zahra had no one to protect him. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, our brothers who are oppressed in Palestine, protect them, Ya Allah. Give them aid, support them in these difficult times. The mothers, the daughters, the sons, the babies, the fathers, the elderly, all those who face difficulty, Ya Allah, in there and in Afghanistan and in Pakistan and around the world, Ya Allah. Whoever has lost their homes, whoever has had their house or their land confiscated by the governments, Ya Allah, protect them and bless them through the wasila of Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the originators of this majlis, that Allah continues to bless them and allow them to continue in the service of Muhammad and al-Muhammad. There are brothers who have asked us and sisters who have asked us to recite the ayah of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All together. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. All together, please. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. We lost many of our brothers and sisters in Lebanon in the last couple of days. Let us remember them. Many families have lost their sons in these last couple of days, and nobody cares to mention them. And it disappoints me sometimes that there are certain places which don't mention when others are killed, but want everyone to mention when they are killed, when the reality is we should all remember the oppressed equally, inshaAllah. We will begin the question and answer session. For the brothers and the sisters can join us, inshaAllah, as well in this hall after the recital of a Surah Al-Fatiha and the recital of our Latmiyah from our dear brother Mullah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.